And we are live. Hello, homemakers and everyone in the chat or on the replay. Tonight, we welcome Becky from Becky's Acre Homestead to the show. She's going to let us know what homesteading is like in her little corner of the world. But before we get into that, welcome to Homemaking with Purpose, where we bring to you the best ideas, interviews, and live streams, the best interviews, ideas, and information for today's homemaker. And tonight's homemaker, I cannot talk tonight. Guys, it's been so long since I've been here in my own little studio that I am just all off base. But tonight's show is brought to us by Apron Diva, Pretty and Practical. We believe that an apron can be a homemaker's best accessory. And tonight's featured product is the recipe aprons. We're having a recipe apron Valentine's Day bundle. So you can get either or, what the cookie apron or the carry apron, and one recipe deck, one of each, and get the whole bundle at 25% off using the code Valentine25 at checkout. Okay, so please give Becky a warm welcome. Hooray!
Friends.
I am so glad to see you, Becky. I have been just binging on your videos, and you have so much energy in the kitchen.
Thank you. It's fun.
Yeah, apparently it is. You seem to be having a lot of fun.
I do. I love being home and being in the kitchen.
Okay. So now, viewers, before we get started, I want you to, if you have a question, put an hashtag Q in the front of your question. And then that way, Mickey Blue Sky should be able to help find it. Because you guys know sometimes I get so involved in the chat that I just overlook it. So please put hashtag Q in front of your questions. And we're going to go ahead and get started. And then I'll check in and see who's in the chat a little bit later on. All right. So let's start with your homemaking journey. I think it might be fair to say that you're still somewhat of a newlywed. Is that accurate?
Well, we are celebrating our 8th wedding anniversary this
Oh,
month.
you're 8. For some reason, I was thinking it was the second one.
Second year we've lived in this house.
Okay, that's where I got the second year from. So
Yep.
I was thinking you'd only been married 2 years. I thought she's still a babe.
31.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you guys have been married for 8 years, and but it's the second year in your house. And so tell us a little bit about this house. I do know that I saw where you guys were in a different situation and then decided to spread your wings.
Yeah, so we lived in just the first house we bought together, we bought before we were married, just right before. And it was just a little suburban house, super cute. We spent 5 years gutting it, renovating it. We touched every surface. And then I wanted to have a garden. And I wanted to have a garden when we bought our first house. But, you know, there's always something when you're a first-time home buyer that you have to give up. And so it was very small lot. So couldn't really have much of a garden other than some herbs and pots and things like that. And so the opportunity to buy this house came available, and we're on 1 acre. We're still in suburbia. I'm 5 minutes from Walmart. You know, I'm not in the country by any means, but it's just a big lot. And so I was able to put in a big garden, and this house has been pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell you were still in like town because in one of your videos, I could see the neighbor's house like not too far away, I think.
Yeah.
So I
We're
thought,
all in 1 acre lots.
okay, 1 acre lots. I like that because that was going to be one of my questions is it actually an acre? But you've already answered that to say that it is.
1 acre. Yeah. That's where the name comes from.
Okay. Yeah. And let me just tell you, Becky, the first thing I noticed about you was your smile. You have the most beautiful smile, and you just seem to exude joy and joy in the kitchen. So tell us what you enjoy most about being in the kitchen?
I like to eat, so I like to eat good food, and I think that's where, if you learn to become a better cook, then your end product becomes better. And it's expensive to go out to eat all the time. And once you kind of learn some pretty basic fundamental cooking skills, you can quickly learn that you can cook better than a lot of things that you can buy without, unless you want to go to a really fancy restaurant and spend a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Your food tastes a lot better than anything you can get at a restaurant. And so that's kind of where, and then I like to push my cooking abilities. I like to think about random things that, normally you don't think about making at home. Like
Mm-hmm.
today's video, we make marshmallows, and it's pretty empowering to learn how to cook something that you think you can only buy store bought. And marshmallows are actually really easy to make. And so I just think it's kind of fun to learn those basic skills so your daily cooking or daily eating can be better, plus kind of pushing the boundaries on what can be made at home.
I think that is just so interesting that you are talking about making marshmallows in today's video. I would never think to make a marshmallow, particularly because about 30 minutes from where I live is the craft home factory where they make the
Oh, really?
marshmallows. Yeah, they make marshmallows, marshmallow sauce, craft caramels, the whole 9 yards. And when I was still working in community health, I would take my nursing students there, and then they would spend some time, a couple of weeks in the office with the occupational health nurse, and they had like bowls of caramels and jars of marshmallows and stuff like that in the lobby, and you could just get them when you came in to visit. So I'm like, she's making marshmallows, and like craft is like right down the road. But I like that idea. I might give some of that a try.
Yeah, it's fun. It's pretty easy too.
Okay, looks like we've got a question already, which I hadn't planned to take a question yet, but for some reason I can't seem to get it to open up.
I can't see any comments or anything. I don't know if that's just from my end or.
You should be able to see comments.
Oh, okay. I see it now. Here's a question. Becky, how many years have you been drying your herbs? You seem comfortable with the technique. Oh, just 2 years actually, because I just bought our house 2 years ago and we just started gardening 2 years ago.
Okay. All right, let me find that again. Here's one here too. Is it too soon to begin growing veggies in my home? Well, I'll let you take that and then I might add a comment, but go ahead.
It depends on where you live. I should have started my onions and celery a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to be doing that probably tomorrow. But for me personally, like peppers and onions, we're still about 3 weeks, 4 weeks before I should start them inside. The best way to know for where you live is Google the Farmer's Almanac, and there will be an area where you can put in your zip code, and it'll give you an exact planting schedule of what to plant inside with seeds, when you can take those seedlings and plant them outside, or when you can take your seeds and plant them outside, like carrots, direct seed them. So the Farmer's Almanac is the best resource for that.
Okay, so Blue Skies, if you could put that note about the Farmer's Almanac in the chat so people can see that, that would be great. And then here's another question, which is, how did you learn to do all of these Wonder Woman type homestead things?
It's just born out of my curiosity. When we lived in our last house, what started me down the road where there was 2 books I read called Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kilzover and The Dirty Life by Kristen Kimball. And those are both memoirs type stories, and they talk about, one of them, she marries a farmer and lives on a farm, and the other one, they have a bunch of acreage and they push themselves to eat 1 year 100% local.
Mm-hmm.
Between what they can grow and what they can buy from local farmers. And that was pretty inspiring to me. And I lived in a small suburban lot at the time. And they talked about ways that you can learn to can and buy from farmers. And you can do some of those homesteady type things, even if you don't grow your own food or have the resources to do that. And so I took that time in our last house to learn some of those like food preservation skills and learn to cook. and get better at that. And so now that I have a garden, I already know those other skills. So I'm taking the time now to learn how to garden because I'm going into only my 3rd year gardening. And so I'm still really new at that. So just take whatever, like wherever you are at that time, and um, yeah, learn those skills.
So, one of the questions was, what was the name of your channel? And I forgot to pull this up when I introduced you, but this is Becky's channel. It is called Acre Homestead. And you can just kind of see that here are some of the things that she does,
Yeah.
making homemade marshmallows and Reese Hearts, chocolate truffles, and more. Here she made some homemade dog treats. I thought that was very interesting, making homemade dog treats. But look at all the different things that she's doing and making. And then this one is about, did she break her own pantry challenge rules? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But also making and canning homemade beef bone broth and things like that. So it looks like you make just a little bit of everything, 100% made from scratch, delicious freezer meals. Oh my goodness. That's one of the things that I am going to explore for my homemakers is freezer meals and make ahead meals so that I can share those with my young homemakers because they so need those skills. And actually, you're in the demographics that I like to talk to, but you already know so many of these skills, and so many of the young homemakers today don't. How did you learn this skill set? Did you learn this at home from your mom, your grandma, or did you just kind of practice and figure it out on your own?
I learned a lot on YouTube because I like to watch YouTube.
Oh, okay.
My mom, she was really good about cooking at home, and she would batch cook things. But she didn't do like freezer meals or anything like that. But in 2020, I was a dental hygienist before I started my YouTube channel, and I lost my job in 2020 for 9 weeks. All dental offices in our area were closed,
Mhm.
completely closed for 9 weeks. And I cooked a lot from scratch before that, but when I was, we would probably eat out maybe twice a week. And when I was laid off, we were like not eating out at all, obviously, because,
Obviously.
um, you know, save money. And so after that, I started working again, and we realized how much money we were spending on eating out. Um, so we just kind of got used to eating at home. And because I was then working full time, and at that point, when I started working back up again, I started my YouTube channel. So I was basically working 2 full-time jobs, and we were not spending money on eating out except maybe once a month. And so I quickly had to learn how to batch cook and do freezer meals in order for us to eat at home, because working 2 jobs, there was no way that if I didn't have prepared food, if I didn't set time to like cook and have those ready, then when I was home from work and hygiene and editing the video, I wasn't going to cook. I didn't have time. So I had to, it was kind of out of survival that I kind of started doing that. And now it's just become habit. And I love to cook. I think cooking from is so fun, but to have the pressure to do it every night is not fun. Then it becomes a chore. So I've just kind of adopted that if I have meals prepared in my freezer or in my refrigerator, then I don't have the pressure of having to cook every night, but we can still eat home cooked meals every night. And then when I feel inspired to cook a big fancy dinner, then I have that energy and I can do that instead of having to feel like I have to cook every single night.
I like that idea when you said that you were pushed into learning these skills because you were working 2 full-time jobs, YouTube and then your dental hygienist job. And so out of survival, you learn how to prepare ahead, plan ahead. And that's really the way it is. So much of what we need to do, some of the things we need to do, we are pushed into them because of circumstances.
Yeah, sure.
And for our young moms out there who are working full time, or if you're outside of the home or even inside the home, and then you've got some littles, if you can plan ahead, like on the weekend, and cook several days ahead and then put those in the freezer, that is certainly a big help.
Yeah, or even a good tip is when you're cooking, if you're cooking a meal anyway, say you don't have, I don't have kids, so I do have the luxury of taking a Saturday or taking a day to do that and make 20 meals or whatever. But if you have kids or you don't have the ability to set aside a full day, you can, if you're making a dinner, just double it and make 2 and then just freeze that other one. So you're at least starting to build that bank of meals in your freezer or, refrigerator or whatever it might be, because you've already dirtied the kitchen. It doesn't take that much more time to chop 2 onions instead of 1 onion.
Okay, I like that. And then this was a question we had earlier about how many years you've been drying herbs. You seem so comfortable with the technique.
Oh, I've been doing it for just 2 years, just since I've been at this house. Yeah.
Okay.
You just
And
low temperature when you're drying herbs.
oh, low temperature. I have to tell you, you guys are going to get a good laugh out of this, but I have been trying to dry orange rind
Mm.
2 or 3 different times, and I burn it out both times. The first time I kept checking it and I kept checking it and it was fine. I said, now, honey, don't let me burn up these orange rinds. And the next time I checked it, it was burned up. I had to throw it out. And I had it in the oven.
Mm.
And I only had it on like 250 or something like that, but still it was too high. So I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But here's a question from Tanya. And where does your passion for homesteading and gardening come from?
I think I've always loved to cook. And so just like I was talking about, pushing myself of what can I cook from scratch. I think that's a pretty natural, what's the word? Segue, I guess, to push myself to see what food I can grow myself, and so just keep pushing the boundaries of what can I do for myself that normally you would go to the store and buy.
Okay. And then we got another question that came in, and it is, what is Becky's favorite dish to cook?
I don't really have a favorite dish to cook. I made this week, if you watch my videos, I'm in a pantry challenge and I'm recording all the dinners that I'm cooking for 2 months. And one of the meals one of my new favorite ones, I should say, is I made schnitzel.
Really?
Yeah, and it was surprisingly easy and it was so good. Oh my gosh, I made it with mashed potatoes and sweet and sour cabbage, which I've never made that before either. And that's probably my new favorite. It was so good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned the pantry challenge a couple of times. So now I'm going to ask you then, I saw that you were involved in that Three Rivers Homestead Pantry Challenge. So tell us how the challenge is working for you.
I'm going to do a video, or maybe I'll go live. I don't know when I'm done with the challenge, but it's been surprisingly easy because I didn't realize how well stocked I was. We're in February now, so now I just ran out of half and half today, so we're going to be making some homemade almond milk for my coffee. But so far, it's surprisingly going pretty well. I am getting creative, trying to use up some. So another thing we cooked together, the video's not out yet, but I filmed it. I had a whole box of homegrown potatoes that we're trying to grow out of the box with eyes. And so I mashed all those potatoes and we made gnocchi. And so it's been fun, like pushing my creativity of trying to figure out how to preserve those potatoes without canning them or something. So I made gnocchi and froze them.
You made your own gnocchi?
Mm-hmm.
I just discovered gnocchi last year and I purchased it twice from Kroger. I love it. So did you video that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't watched that. I missed that one.
I haven't edited it yet. So that's going to be Pantry Challenge week 4. So that'll probably be out in like 2 videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a question from Ronnie Weaver, and she's one of my longtime viewers, and she wants to know, how do you stop the smell of onions in your freezer?
I've never really noticed it being an issue, I guess. This is only my second. I froze onions last year, but I didn't grow that many, so I used them up pretty quick. And this year I used a vacuum sealer, and I'm not really noticing that they're making the freezer smell. But I didn't freeze a ton of them because my onions were really small that I grew. They were the size of a golf ball, which is pretty pretty small for an onion.
I had some golf ball size onions myself this year, which was fine. They at least grew. My potatoes didn't grow at all.
Mine didn't either.
Oh, okay, then I don't feel so bad.
No, it was a pain to peel them for this for the gnocchis because they were small too.
Okay. So let's see. I'm missing a question now. Tell us, what is your baking and cooking routine like?
I don't really have a routine, I would say. Just whatever inspires me is when I decide to. I honestly am not a strong baker. I don't follow recipes super well, and so baking is always more of a stretch for me because you should follow the recipe. So I don't really have a routine. I cook a lot more than I bake.
Oh, you cook a lot more than you bake.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I noticed I've been cooking quite a bit lately too because I've been doing Lisa Sutton's January pantry challenge
So
and then Kate Caden's no spend January. So it's like, okay, we can't eat out. We got to eat here, and then we got to eat things in the from the fridge, the freezer, the pantry, etc. So I've been cooking quite a bit myself, and I found that I enjoy it. Now I've always enjoyed cooking, but like lately, I just decide, okay, I got to cook dinner. We'll figure it out, find something in here. And I don't even think about going out to eat. I just look in there and figure it out. So tonight I made roast chicken. And I really didn't want to have roast chicken tonight, but I was supposed to make it yesterday and I didn't. And I had already defrosted the chicken and I
right.
wanted like soup or something like that. So I thought, okay, I'll go ahead, roast the chicken tonight, and then we'll have it tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
I went ahead and had the other thing that I wanted to have today. So I took care of that. Okay, let's see. Let me just remind people who's here and why. So if you're just joining us on the chat, we have Becky from Becky from Acre Homestead with us tonight, and she's telling us about her life as a city homesteader because her homestead is actually it's in a housing addition, it's in the city, but it is an acre, and how she does some of the things that she does. And then also wanted to remind everyone that we do have the recipe apron bundle on sale, 25% off, using the checkout Valentine 25 at checkout, rather using the code Valentine 25 at checkout. Okay, let's see. Here's a question from Dee at Dee's Lovely Life. What is your favorite thing to grow in your garden? And she's on her 5th year of gardening and loving it.
Probably tomatoes and carrots and peas, not sugar snap peas. Those are probably my favorite.
You know what? I love growing tomatoes too, and I've done well with those. My grape tomatoes went crazy last year. I had so many of them, and my other tomatoes, but my carrots didn't grow at all. I planted like little onion bulbs around them, chives, all did all the things they said do to keep the carrot flies away. They didn't grow.
Yeah, I don't think we have carrot flies here because I've never had that issue.
Okay, well, this was the first time I really tried to plant them and they didn't grow. So I'm going to try it again this year and we'll see what happens.
I love harvesting potatoes, though. Those are my favorite to harvest because it's like digging for treasure.
Yeah, I saw, I think it was Khadija at her healthy home when she harvested her potatoes. And it was like she pulled them up and all these, like this little string of potatoes came up. So that's what I was expecting when I grew mine. And I pulled mine up and all I had was a bunch of weeds and some little black, I don't know, berries or something. I'm like, I don't know what this is in here, but it wasn't potatoes. That's a fact. Okay, well, Becky, I saw you making a curry, I believe, and you put your spices in the skillet to cook with your onions and garlic. And you made a comment about it's better to put them in the skillet rather than in with the broth. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so spices, a lot of the flavor compounds are fat soluble. And so you need to, the flavor compounds aren't going to dissolve into your dish unless you put them in fat. And so that's why you want to put them in with your onions and your garlic and your oil or butter or whatever it is in your pan, so that when you then add your coconut milk or broth or whatever it is to your curry or soup, then you've released all those flavor compounds, and you're toasting the spices at the same time before you put your broth in. So that's really common in India and in Thailand and areas where they cook with a ton of spices. You're never going to see them adding the spices at the end of making a curry or a soup. They're always going to put it in at the beginning when there's oil in the pan.
Oh, that's a pro tip, guys. I hope all my young homemakers out there heard that. Put those spices in when there's some fat in there to kind of help to release that flavor. So thank you. That was a great tip, Becky. And I have to tell you, that was one that I didn't know about earlier either. And one of my viewers told me to do that same thing. She says, bloom those spices. And I tried it a couple of times. I was like, whoa, it does help to release those flavors a lot better. So I do that myself now, but thank you for reinforcing that skill set for my young homemakers. Okay, here's Around the House with Cheryl, and she grows a garden mainly of flowers, but she says she's not had luck with seeds. She's been gardening for over 20 years. So do you have any tips for her? Hey, Cheryl.
So I grew the first year mostly only herbs and vegetables. Last year was my second year, and I grew some zinnias and calendula, and I planted some echinacea, but it didn't bloom. And I grew all that from seed, and it all did pretty well. And that definitely got me really excited about flowers. I follow a few flower farmers on YouTube, and they've really gotten me excited about flowers. And these are all the flowers that I'm going to try to grow are perennials. The person who owned my property before I did, she planted calla lilies, daylilies, peonies, irises, all the perennials, hydrangeas. I have every perennial flower, so I don't know much about those, but I don't really have to worry about them because they're on my property. But this year I'm really going to dive into growing a ton of flowers because they're super fun and super pretty. So I'm excited about that.
And what about pollinators?
Yeah, well, you definitely need those flowers in your garden to pollinate your fruits and vegetables, and you'll get a bigger yield if you have those flowers in your garden. So you might, if you want to grow food and herbs and you don't want to waste the space growing flowers, you're going to get a higher yield if you have those flowers because it's going to draw in those pollinators that you need to pollinate your vegetables.
Okay, I think that's a pro tip right there too. So for those of you who, as she said, don't want to waste space on flowers, flowers are just as important because they help draw in those pollinators, which are some of what you need to get your herbs and other veggies to grow. So that's a pretty good tip there as well. And then Happy Farm Lady said you just upped her cooking game when you made the comment about blooming the spices, but Penny missed that. She says, what releases the flavor? Can you repeat that, please?
That is when you want to take your spices, cumin, coriander, mustard seed, cinnamon, whatever it is. If you're going to put it in a curry, a soup, anything, rice, you want to kind of bloom those in a little bit of oil or grease or butter in your pan before you put your liquid in because they're fat soluble.
Okay. All right. And then Tanya says she's watched a few of your videos that you do with your siblings. So they seem to be just as talented as you. So do they homestead and garden as well?
No. My sister, one of them, she's into peonies. So she's got a lot of peony flowers, but not super interested in it. But my other sister, she does buy her meat from local farmers, and she is part of a CSA, community supported agriculture. That's what I did before I had my own garden. Mm-hmm. You can become a member of a farm, and you pay up front, and then throughout the growing season, you get once a week usually a farm share produce. I mean, there's CSAs for flowers, there's CSAs for meat, dairy, vegetables. And so she does that now because of all the things I'm into. So that's kind of cool.
I'm going to write that down. Communities that support agriculture.
Community supported agriculture. And the best way to find them in your area is a nonprofit website called localharvest.org. And that's where you can find all the farmers markets in your area, all the farms that have CSAs. You can find ranchers that grow beef, pork, chicken in your area. Um,
Localfarmersmarket.org.
localharvest.org. And that's it's a nonprofit website. And if you want to find like farm to table dinners or food festivals, anything food local related, you can find on localharvest.org. It's pretty fun. So my husband and I have done some like farm to table dinners and stuff, and we found them on there.
Okay, and that's supposed to be a .org.
Yeah.
The G didn't show up, so people that are watching, it's supposed to be .org. Okay, that's pretty interesting. And since we're talking about local farmers markets and that kind of thing, one of the videos that I saw most recently on your channel was a huge meat haul. I could not believe how much meat you had. And then you cleaned or not cleaned, but reorganized your freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, she's got enough meat there for like a little grocery store. And I thought I had a lot of meat in mine. But one of the things I learned is that you will purchase like a half a pig or a whole pig or a half a cow or something like that. So you partner with your local farmers and you purchase meat in large quantities for like maybe a year's supply or something like that. Can you tell us about that? Because I'm thinking it's got to be cost effective when you purchase it that way.
It is. I think the most cost effective is beef. And you can get higher quality beef. If you've ever heard of like grass-fed beef, you'll see that marketing in the grocery stores. I buy my beef from a rancher who's about 20 minutes north of me. He does grass-fed, grass-finished. There's no regulations or guidelines for the grocery stores or for food producers what grass-fed means. Oh. And grocery stores will charge a premium for putting grass-fed on their labels when you buy it at the grocery store. But a cow could eat one day or one sprig of grass and you can call that grass-fed. So 99% of beef that's grass-fed is not grass-finished. So what that means is when a cow is on pasture eating grass, they will then, for the last 6 weeks of its life, they will feed it grain, corn, soy. Cows are not designed to eat corn or soy. That's not the way that their stomachs are built. And it completely changes the omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio. And it's a way less healthy beef. And it doesn't take that long for that ratio to switch in the animal. And so you can be paying a huge premium for grass-fed beef at a grocery store, but it's probably grain finished. And the reason they do that is it fattens that animal up really quickly and you get more marbling in the meat. And so that's why they do it. So if you're going to buy grass-fed beef in a store, make sure it says grass-fed, grass-finished, if that's important to you. And so it's a lot easier for me just to partner with a local rancher. I can talk to him. I know exactly what that animal is eating. And I usually buy a half a cow because it's cheaper. You can buy a quarter, half, or whole, and the more you buy, the cheaper it is. So now I just buy a half. And I pay about $4.50 a pound for that beef. And that includes every single cut. That's prime rib, filet mignon, ground beef, every single part of that animal I'm paying the same price. So it's a lot cheaper. I get a higher quality product for a lot cheaper, but it is quite an investment up front. That can be what can be hard. And you have to have freezer space for it. But that's why I do that. And the same with pork. I know what those animals are eating because I'm buying them from a local rancher. I can go visit the farm. I can talk to them. And a lot of a lot of pigs are grown in concrete. Concrete. They're not even on dirt. They're in these big warehouses. Oh. And so it's kind of sad. So if you buy it from local ranchers, you can see kind of the living conditions and things. Okay. I can't really afford pasture raised chicken because it's so expensive, but I can get pork and beef at least. So, you just got to do what you can do with, your financial resources and your freezer space and all of that. So
when we were young homemakers with kids still at home, we bought a quarter of a cow a couple of times. We went in with like a couple other teachers where my husband worked, and I think one of the teachers had a farm and they raised some cattle, and so because they knew each other, he would like sell us a quarter of a cow, that kind of thing. And it does save you a lot of money and saves you a lot of time. And when
Yeah.
you talk about, and that takes shopping your shelves to a new level, because you really are shopping your shelves when you do that.
Yeah.
And that's the way to go if you can do that. Um, so I really like what you say about becoming a local partner with your local ranchers, but also with the local farmers markets. I know I don't have a partnership with anyone like that now, but we do have several local farmers markets that are here in town during the spring and summer. Then there's one farmers market that's open year round, but then the rest of them are open spring and summer. And I love to go there and shop. Just love to.
Yeah. I do too.
Okay, let's see. There's a question over here. Journey to the Homestead said, I know you have said you practiced being a vegetarian at one time. Do you think you would ever go back?
Probably not. My husband likes to, we do like meatless meals quite often. But I don't know if my husband would. I could probably be a vegetarian, but I don't know if he would want to. He doesn't mind when I do meatless meals. Um, he doesn't complain about them or anything, but I don't think that's something he would want to. And being a meat eater, that is why I try to um, do it the most humane way possible. And so that's why I like to talk with my local farmers and know what those conditions are the animals are being raised in, so that I can be try to make the most informed decision and be most responsible. And when you buy from your local ranchers, you can request every single cut of that meat. So it's not going to waste. And that's what I do. If we don't eat it, then I will turn it into something my dogs will eat, like the organ meat and things like that. But
Tell us about that. Tell us about those dog treats. Because
so
if I'm right, well, tell us about the dog treats.
yeah. So when you buy half a cow, you can request all the organ meat. And my husband and I are not fans of that, but I don't want that to go to waste. And when you buy from a local rancher, you technically are purchasing that animal prior to it being butchered. And so when the animal is being processed, if you don't request that, then they just throw it away. And I am not comfortable with that. I don't want any of that parts to go to waste that could be consumed. But my husband and I aren't going to eat it. And so I turned the organ meat I freeze dried it and turned it into dog treats for my dogs. And they love it. And then you can request all the bones as well. And you can make your beef broth, your bone broth, and all that good stuff with that. So that's what I like to do.
I'm going to go here. I see a comment here from D at D Lovely Life, and said she would love to buy meat like that, but just doesn't have the freezer space. And
Yeah.
so I will say that you do need to have the freezer space.
Yeah.
Right now, freezers in the big box stores have become quite expensive, but sometimes you can
If you
still
can find them.
Yeah, sometimes you can find the small chest freezers at like Walmart or Menards or Lowe's, somewhere like that. The small chest ones for about somewhere between $300 and $500, which can still be pricey depending upon your budget. But you could put aside some money to get one. But those smaller ones you can tend to find. The big upright, those kind of things, my niece waited almost a year to get one. But
Yeah.
some of the smaller ones, if you luck up at the right time in Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart, you might be able to find one of those smaller ones that you can keep out, say in your garage or somewhere like that. So I wanted to make sure that I made that comment there. And then Hard Hustle Mom likes buying local. And then Cal, and I call Cal my sister from another mister. She's in Oklahoma, I believe. And she says it blew her mind that you don't wash eggs you collect from the chicken. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I only don't wash them if they come in clean, which right now they are not coming in clean because it's been raining like crazy. And so I wash the if they come in clean when it's not raining around here, they are pristine and you don't have to wash them. And chickens put a coating on the egg, which is called the bloom. And that is a protective coating because chickens will lay eggs and they might lay and wait a month or two before they sit on them. So that protective coating that the chickens purposely put on the egg keeps that egg fresh for a very long period of time, so that when the chicken then decides it wants to sit on the eggs to hatch eggs out, those eggs will still hatch out. I don't have a rooster, so my eggs aren't going to be fertilized.
Mhm.
The eggs would have to be fertilized for a chicken to sit on an egg and it to turn into a chicken. So basically, if you take those clean eggs, you bring them into your house, you don't have to refrigerate them or anything like that for about 2 months. They'll stay totally fresh on the counter. But if my eggs come in dirty, like they are right now, then they do get washed. When you wash them, you wash that bloom off, and then they need to be refrigerated because they're no longer sealed. That bloom seals them. So if you wash that off, then the shell is permeable, and then you can get, that's when you can worry about getting bacteria inside the egg. Store-bought eggs in the US legally have to be washed if eggs are sold in the grocery store, and that's why you have to worry about salmonella in eggs, because they are washed. You're never going to get salmonella on an egg that's not washed because that shell is not permeable. And so in Europe, they don't wash the eggs. It's illegal to wash eggs in Europe, and so they don't refrigerate their eggs. And so that's why sometimes I wash them and sometimes I don't. But if they come in muddy, then they get washed.
It's, and I think it's interesting that you talk about that, because I did not know that either, that the eggs weren't washed. But Khadijah at Her Healthy Home, she was the one that shared that with me. She lives in Memphis, Tennessee. And when I went to Memphis to visit my daughter, I went to visit her, and she's got like a chicken coop and chickens and all that in her backyard. And I got to like collect some of the eggs from the nest. I was thinking all the hens would be all around and would like peck at my hands and all that kind of stuff, but they
Yeah,
just
sure.
ignored me completely. And then she told me you didn't have to wash the eggs, and so I was pretty surprised at
Yeah.
that. So,
I was surprised when I learned that. I was like, oh.
so Dee says when they butchered on the reservation, they would have to share because of not enough freezer space, if any. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
So Tanya says she buys meat on sale, and then when her freezer gets full, she'll pressure can it so that it's
That's a
shelf
great idea.
stable. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's see, what time is it? I better do my apron note giveaway. Before I get to that though, let me ask you one more question. And that is, you do a lot of organic purchasing, even when it's more expensive. And you've made comments about that a couple of times on your videos. So tell us about that decision and something called the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, so there's a list. I can't afford to buy everything organic, and it depends too on our budget. You know, my husband and I were saving up to buy a new roof, and so I could not afford to buy as many things organic as I normally would. But there are some things that I really work hard only to buy organic because they're sprayed quite heavily. And you can Google a list called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean Dozen. And it's a list that's put out that says if you're only going to buy organic, these, or if you can only buy certain organic things, these are what you should strive to buy organic because they're sprayed so heavily. Versus if you're not going to buy it, if you're going to buy it conventional, these are the ones that are very safe to buy conventional because they're not either sprayed as much, or it's like a banana where you peel, a very thick skin off, so you don't really have to worry about the contents being contaminated. And so if it just depends on life and budget when I can buy more organic and when I can't. But there is a list of things that I try to only buy organic when possible.
Okay.
And that, like peppers is one of those things. And peppers are very expensive organic in winter if you want to buy them fresh. I cannot afford $3 for one pepper. And so in the summer, there's an organic farmer who grows peppers, and I'll buy 20 pounds of peppers from him and I'll chop them up and freeze them. And then I have organic peppers all year long. And I just don't buy fresh peppers in the grocery store because those are part of the Dirty Dozen. So that's kind of an example of how I try to buy from local farmers if I can't grow it, or I can't afford to buy organic peppers in the winter because they're too expensive.
I think when I go to the farmers market this spring and summer, I'm going to start asking more questions, and I'm going to ask them on your peppers and your tomatoes, how much do you spray? Are these organic or not? That kind of thing. I'm just really more interested just hearing you talk about these things today. So I'm really going to investigate that a little bit more. Well,
You,
Scott,
you
go ahead.
one thing you do also want to ask if they grow their own food. You have to be careful with
Oh,
at farmers markets. Not a lot, but I know at mine there's at least two vendors that don't grow any of their food. They go to the local food distributing center and they buy it and they come to farmers market and sell it. And it's the same groceries that you can buy in the grocery store. So you want to ask. Usually you can tell by a farmer that's growing their food is very passionate about it and they'll want to talk about it. And so if ask those questions, are you growing it? Because if they're growing it, they're going to tell you they're growing it. And they're going to be happy to tell you every single part of the growing process. So that is something to note that you do at farmers markets. Some farmers markets only allow farmers to sell what they grow, but some don't. And mine doesn't. And so they could be charging a premium for something that it's the same thing you could buy at your grocery store.
okay. That's nice to know. I'm going to check that out too. All right. So we're going to give away an apron note. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, I am Denise Jordan, the Apron Diva. And in every order, we give away an apron note because, and we have 14 different notes and they're like little love notes or messages to the homemaker because we know that so often homemakers feel unappreciated. And we want you to feel like this note is a message from your dearest friend. And this is the note for today. And today's note says, "You're the art in the art and science of homemaking." You're the art in the art and science of homemaking. And in my philosophy, the art is how the homemaker is the therapeutic use of self, how the homemaker uses him or herself to bring joy or to beautify a home or to just make the home cozy and nourishing. And then the science is how you use maybe specific spices or if you use certain chemicals and different things like that, knowing what to mix and what not to mix. And if you need to make bread and cornbread and you're out of this and you need to add this or that, well, that's part of the science. So you are the art in the art and science of homemaking. And the winner for that apron note is Ronnie Weaver. Mickey Blue Skies drew a name from the comment section. And one of those little bings you guys keep hearing is when she's sending me messages or questions. And Ronnie Weaver is the winner of today's note. So Ronnie, what I will need you to do is send me your address, your mailing address at my email, to my email. Don't put it in the chat because everybody can see that. But send it to me at thisandthatwithdenise@gmail.com. And then while Ronnie's doing that, how does this note resonate with you, Becky?
I don't know.
You're the art in the art and science of homemaking.
I guess I've never really thought of myself as a homemaker, even though that's technically what I am. I think,
Really?
yeah, I don't know if that's just a generational thing, I guess. I don't know. But I like the idea of that as it being an art instead of a chore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, send me your address at the email address that I shown there, and you will also receive that apron note in the mail. So you guys will receive the same one. But one of the things that I like to tell my homemakers and my viewers is that we are all making a home. If it's just you by yourself, if it's you and your boo, or if you have a family, a husband, a spouse, or you're a single mom, you are making a home. Now, some homes are a little bit cozier and more nurturing than others, but everyone wants to have a cozy place to live. And some homes are neater than others, but it doesn't mean that they're not as important to that home, to that family. Okay, well, let me see. Let me get back on track here. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about gardening. How much are you looking forward to the 2022 gardening season?
I am super excited. I'm a little behind, but I am. I was just watching some of my old gardening videos because right now my garden is pretty brown and depressing and soggy and wet, and it was giving me a ton of energy and excitement just seeing those old videos of how good the garden looks. Sometimes you forget when you're in it, you're like, oh, it could look a lot better. But then looking back, I'm like, wow, that looks really good. And so I'm excited to have some sunshine on my face again and be out there.
Oh, yeah, I am so excited for the gardening season. What are you planning to grow and how much? And then the next question after that is going to be about your grow along challenge. But tell us what you're planning to grow and how much first.
I'm planning to grow kind of a staples garden. Peppers, onions, carrots, potatoes, peas, um, onions, black beans, corn, just the things we eat. I've kind of gotten down to the trap of growing things that you see in other people's gardens, but Josh and I don't eat beets, but other people grow beets, and there's beets in the seed catalog, so you're supposed to grow beets, right? So my goal this year is to try to only grow the things that we actually eat.
Okay.
And then, I'm going to try to grow a year's worth of everything. I know
Oh,
that won't happen, but that's my goal. Um, and yeah,
so your challenge that you're calling it your grow along challenge, and let me type that in the chat because Mickey Blue Skies is
it's
also
it doesn't have a name yet. I have to name it, but it's a container garden challenge to grow, or yeah, grow along in containers or small spaces because not everybody has a big garden like I do. And I don't want that to stop people from like starting to like learn the skills of gardening, even if it's just in containers or in one little raised bed. We can take wherever we are that time to learn to try to grow something so that, if you want to eventually grow onto a bigger property or something like that, then you at least are learning those skills.
that is too funny too because I usually issue a container garden challenge every spring,
That's
and
awesome.
but in my containers I would usually plant flowers, and
Mm,
I have different container gardens of flowers. But I
yeah.
put some herbs in pots last year, and even put some tomatoes, and I had my potatoes and some different things like that. But yeah, I certainly agree with that because you can just learn so much. And even if the things don't turn out well, some of the things will.
Yeah.
So now,
Oh, tons of stuff I grow don't turn out at all.
yeah, most of my things come out except for carrots and potatoes. So, but then I agree with you too, though. I only grow the things that I like to eat as well. So now you were talking about a staples garden. What exactly is that?
That just means I'm not trying to grow things that we don't eat. The staples, the things that I buy at the grocery store. Look at what I buy at the grocery store and try to grow those things. I don't like kohlrabi, so I shouldn't grow kohlrabi. I did that. I grew a ton of it 2 years ago, and we didn't really eat it. And then it goes bad. So it's a waste of space. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of seed.
Mhm.
Um, Beets. I don't like beets, but I grew beets the last 2 years. I don't really like radishes, so why am I growing 3 square feet of radishes? So that's what I mean by staple gardening. So growing those staples that I buy at the grocery store and trying to grow those myself.
Okay, that sounds like what I sometimes tell my homemakers is a kitchen garden. I just grow the things that I'm going to use
Yeah,
in my kitchen. A lot of herbs. I grew a lot of herbs last year, and they
that's
did
awesome.
so well, except for my sage. It got powdery mildew, and I had to pull it
Oh,
up. Oh, I was so
darn it.
disappointed with that.
That is disappointing.
Yeah, yeah. Um.
Someone asked, I'm in Washington.
Oh,
I
that's
live about 10 minutes from Oregon. So sometimes people think I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I just live across the border in Washington State.
okay. Do you use any green stalks, small greenhouses?
I ordered a green stock. I have one. I haven't used it yet, so I don't know. It's like a vertical garden, and I don't have a greenhouse yet.
Okay. Do you plant cabbage?
The first year I had my garden, I grew a ton of cabbage, and this last year it didn't do well. So I'm hoping that this year I can grow a ton of cabbage again.
Okay. You've already mentioned that you live in Oregon. Someone's asking again about Becky's channel name or link, so I will share that again.
It's called
Uh,
Acre Homestead because we're on 1 acre.
there you go. Here's her channel again, the Acre Homestead, and there's her smiling little face right there. So be sure and check her out. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that. One of the things that many of us struggle with is how to keep our freezers organized. Mine always gets at sixes and sevens, especially if I've been doing a lot of shopping or a lot of cooking, or if my husband's been going in and out of there trying to rearrange things so he can get his fish in there. So what is it? Do you have any suggestions for a good way to organize the freezer?
I do have an organizational freezer video, but I only have deep freezers because I spend a lot of money on bulk meat and I cannot trust myself to have a stand-up freezer. And I wish I could have a stand-up freezer because they stay a lot more organized, but I just know that for insurance purpose wise, I need a chest freezer and they can be a pain to organize. So I bought, I have these hard-sided totes and they're cloth, but they have like a thick cardboard lining. And I put like things with like things in them. And then if I need to move something, I'm not moving around individual. It's right there. It's right in the front. Easy way to organize a deep freezer. On the second row down to the right one.
Oh, there you go.
And then
Hey friends, welcome back to Acre.
And then you can pick up the whole tote and take that out, set that out of the freezer while you get underneath if you need to get underneath. But then I try to keep things on the top level, like a little bit of everything on the top level. Yeah, those are the totes. That's me organizing it. They're like a hard-sided tote with straps, so you can pick the whole strap up.
That's kind of nice. And then look, I like right there where you just set them down in there.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that answered that question. I'll stop sharing and come back over here. Okay. So I had to laugh when I saw in one of your videos, you said, my life revolves around food. Food is just kind of my thing. So talk to us about that and your goal for your kitchen for 2022.
My goal for my kitchen is to continue to learn and grow my cooking skills and probably become a better baker. I really want to learn sourdough. I've killed sourdough starters twice. They've gone moldy on me. And then I want to start learning how to do cheese. So I bought some cheese making equipment. And so those are I know how to make yeast dough pretty well. I've not mastered it, I wouldn't say, but I can make a pretty good yeast bread, but I cannot figure sourdough out. So sourdough and cheese are kind of my two things that I want to focus on in 2022.
One of my very good YouTube friends, Mary at Mary's Nest, and she's the one that told me about you last year. She says, you got to get Becky on your show. She's a young thing and she's just getting her channel started. So you got to have her on. I checked out your channel. I'm like, just getting started. This woman is blowing up. She's doing amazing work over there. But, Mary shows you how to do sourdough and all those kinds of things. So,
yeah, she's great. I've learned a lot from her. And she does have a sour cream or a cream cheese video that, yeah.
Yeah, and she's really accessible. So if you give her a call, I'm sure she can just hook you right up. So Amanda Clark says, I grocery shop twice a week, but I would like to shop less often. How do you start building up your food stock? My goal is to shop twice a month. I spend too much if I go twice a week.
Me too. That's the biggest reason why I'm about at once a month grocery shopping now. But I would say if it's a budget issue, then take a percentage of your budget $10, $5, $20, whatever it is, and buy double of something each time you go, and just try to think of, a lot of people in my niche are preppers and stockpiling, and they're storing food that they don't eat. My pantry is all about storing things that I eat. So if you eat pasta, canned tomatoes, cheese, just buy double of whatever it is you normally eat, and slowly work on having multiples of the items you already have.
Of that.
And then learning what produce can hold in your refrigerator longer is huge if you want to stretch out those grocery shopping and you eat a lot of fresh, raw produce. So when I go between grocery shoppings, I'll buy lettuce and I'll buy all the different vegetables, but I know that I first need to eat the lettuce and cucumbers and peppers and zucchini type things, because those are going to go bad a lot faster. But then I'll also have in my refrigerator broccoli and cauliflower. Those last a little bit longer, and cabbage and carrots and onions and potatoes. I can keep a cabbage in my refrigerator for 2 months. If you keep it nice and sealed, you keep it in the crisper drawer. Carrots and celery can last a month easily in your refrigerator. So learning what vegetables will hold, and then you just have to kind of meal plan or eat around what's going to go bad first, and then toward the end of the week or end of the month, eat those carrots and cabbage and things that can hold fresh in your refrigerator longer. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Learning what vegetables will last longer in the fridge makes a lot of sense, because like you said, you're going to use those up. You're going to shop your shelves, and those things that will spoil more quickly, you're going to use those up first. So Debbie Jo says she doesn't understand why you don't trust yourself to have a stand-up freezer. So I know the answer to that because I watched your video, but I'll just let you tell her.
I think growing up, at least twice, we had a freezer door get left open, a stand-up freezer, and you lose the entire contents of that freezer. And my mom, 2 summers ago, it happened to her again. So that's 3 times in my life that I know my mom has had an entire freezer go bad. And I have probably $2,000 worth of meat in my freezer. And I can't afford to have that happen to me, because one, I don't want to sacrifice that animal for nothing. And 2, that's a financial hit that's just too much for me to take. And so I need a chest freezer where gravity is going to close it for me. And that's why a stand-up freezer, you have to make sure it's shut. My personality is I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead, and that's just who I am, and I know that about me. And so I need gravity to be on my side. So I know that I could be prone to not shutting that freezer door completely. And we do even have alarms in our freezer. If they get above a certain temperature, an alarm goes off, because it's just when you buy in bulk, you have a huge investment in it. And I just don't want it to go bad for my wallet and the sake of either the produce that I grew that's in my freezer or the animal or whatever it might be. So that's why I don't trust myself.
Yeah, not even that though, but like I can just tell you several times we've had, like I've gone out to the garage to get something and the door is cracked just a little bit. So, it's not as if you're the only one that lives in your home. So whereas you might be really careful to shut that door and push it up tight, there are other people that just kind of give it a little shove and then keep it moving. And you come back out and like, wait, this door is not all the way shut. And if you catch it in time, you can get it shut and preserve your stuff. But if you don't, like you said, everything falls out and defrost it, and then you have to pitch it. So yeah, that is an issue.
And my husband is the one who would make sure it's shut. But I know myself well enough to know that I am not that person. So
well, and Debbie Jo, who asked the question, said she's had her freezer door left open too. So she understands exactly what you're talking about from there as well. Let me ask you one more question, and then we'll get to the lightning round. And what's your favorite way of food preservation?
I don't have one particular favorite way, because I think all of them have their pros and cons. And I'm pretty picky about when you preserve food, you're changing it to some degree. And I want the end product to be, when I'm going to cook with it, to be good. And
Mhm.
so I'm pretty picky and choosy depending on what that product, what that food is, how I choose to preserve it. So I love canning. I love pressure canning. My favorite things are to pressure can beans and bone broth. I love having that on my pantry shelf, but I don't want canned carrots. I won't eat
Oh,
canned carrots because they're mushy.
mhm.
And we don't eat steamed carrots because my husband and I just don't like them. So even though I love my pressure canner, to me, I would rather blanch and freeze my carrots because that's the way that I would prefer to eat them because they're going to keep a crunch a lot better.
Yes.
So I can't really say, and I have a freeze dryer now, and I'm learning how to use the freeze dryer, and I really like that. And I love my dehydrator, but it's hard to say that there's one best way because it really just depends on what uh, you're preserving and how you want that final product to be in the end.
Okay. I have to say, you said you've only been like really doing all of this for 2 or 3 years, and you are so knowledgeable. You sound like you've been doing this for years. And so you've really done a lot of self education and then probably taken some classes or learned some things from others as well. But I appreciate the level of knowledge that you have brought to the platform tonight. I really want to
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. And several people have said in the chat, boy, we're going to school tonight. And I like it. I like it.
Well, I took those years living at our last house, how to preserve and stuff like that. So I got that under my belt before I'm now learning the gardening thing. So
Okay.
yeah,
You're ready for the lightning round?
yes,
All right. Okay, here we go. Instant pot or slow cooker?
Instant Pot,
Skirts or jeans?
jeans,
Hoops or pearls?
hoops, both. I like pearls too.
Yeah, but you wear a lot of hoops in your
I
video.
do.
So, yeah. So I wore hoops tonight just for you. And these are
Oh,
really
thank you.
pretty, not
I'm wearing them
hoopers.
tonight.
Yeah. Boots or sneakers?
Boots,
Okay. Reese's peanut butter hearts or chocolate truffles?
peanut butter hearts,
Costco or Azure?
mm, azure probably.
Black gold or bone broth?
Bone broth,
And homemade goldfish or Oreos?
Oreos.
All right. How did you get the idea to make those? Like, who would have thought to make goldfish or Oreos?
That just came from the pantry challenge, and my husband, I don't buy that stuff, but he does, and so, and he's not participating in the pantry challenge. He can do whatever he wants, and so I figured if I was going to try to incentivize him not to go to the grocery store and buy those snacks, then I was going to try to make them myself. So that's where that idea came from.
So, how did you come up with the recipe? Did you find a recipe or you just
Mhm.
did trial and error? I was just amazed.
No, those weren't my recipes. I found those recipes from somebody else.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. This has been very thorough.
Okay. And do
Yeah.
you have like a membership program or anything like that that you want people to find you later or anything like that? Just come over and check out your channel.
Yep, check my YouTube channel out or Instagram. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram. You kind of get behind the scenes on Instagram.
Instagram.
I know. It's just Acre Homestead. It's the same thing. We have fun over there.
Okay. All right, you guys, you can tell Instagram is the bane of my existence. I'm supposed to be learning it. I've signed up for a class. It's just so hard. But okay, you can tell I'm not a spring chicken, so Instagram is hard. Well, all right. Well, Becky, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. And ladies and gents, was she not amazing? Oh, and before I let you go, what's your word of the year if you have one?
I don't have one.
Okay, my word of the year is strategic. And
Oh,
ladies,
I like that.
yeah, mine is strategic, and a lot of us have chosen words for the year. And what I want to ask you guys is how you are operationalizing your word in your life. I'm putting my word in my planner so that I have to look at it frequently. And then when I create my goals, I think about that. So, how are you using your word of the year? And then your question of the day is, what will you do differently about your food prep, food purchase, or food preservation? Tell me in the chat or in the comment section. We want to know. And so over here we've got Bonnie O says her word is joy. And Christy says you're a gem, and
Oh,
you
thank you.
are. And Mary Beth is thanking us both. She said it was a good interview. And Becky, people loved you. This was really very nice, Becky. I really enjoyed it too.
Thank you, Bonnie.
And you guys be sure and go over and check out Becky's channel. And I'm sure you will love what you see. So become a member of her family. And you guys come on back and check out my homemaker's journal where I was showing my reflections on homemaking and also my planning for the homemaker. And don't forget to visit us at Apron Diva at www.aprondiva.com. Check out our Valentine's Day bundle. In the meantime, this is Denise Jordan saying you are not done yet. Click on the link in the comment section and check out more homemaking stories. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.